And what's going on, everyone? Welcome into a Friday edition of Parlay with the G's. This is an NFL Week 17 edition of Parlay with the G's. Full slate of NFL games coming up this weekend. We had one on Thursday night where we just saw the Cleveland Browns beat the New York Jets last night pretty convincingly by 14 points. Also, there's going to be no Monday night game this week. That has been flexed to Saturday night. So the Cowboys hosting the Lions, which would have been the Monday night game this week, that's going to be on Saturday. And then we have a full slate of games on Sunday. A lot of games to get to in the morning set, about 3 games to get to in the afternoon set. And then we finish with the Packers at the Vikings Sunday night. I'm joined today by LJ Basong. Stoked to have you back on the show. LJ, as we do weekly, going over these picks. Big win for the Raiders last week. That's something we can talk about today. And then let's begin with our scores from last week. For the spread category, you took the spread category last week with 9 total. I trailed with 8 in the spread category. The over-under category, you took that one as well with 9 total. I took that one with 8. There was, I think, 1 or 2 over-unders that I pushed on, but I'm not going to count a push unless we go over the top on that. And then for the money line category, you also took that with 8 total. I trailed with 7. So you beat me by 1 in each category. You're playing good down the stretch here. You know, I'll take that L to you this week.
No, honestly, and it's because I took so many dogs last week that I didn't pick them as outright winners. I just picked them to cover, and they ended up winning. That's why I think my money line category was a little bit lower. Like I believe I had the Ravens spread. Didn't think they were going to win outright, but they did to the Niners what the Niners do to pretty much every team in the NFL. So that was cool to see for Lamar Jackson.
I mean, the dogs got something to say here. They're not just going to roll over and die. You know, we had the Patriots win a game last week. We had the Falcons win a game last week. The Panthers covered last week. There's dogs that are, looking for scraps here at the end of the regular season. So we got to be careful picking against them. And you're on the better side of that. So good calls last week. For the parlays, Trevin went for the octopus. I think he even actually had 9 legs when he started riddling off that parlay because he had the Bills too. But he was 4 for 8 in his octopus parlay. You know, it's hard to get all 8 tentacles in there, but he got 4 total. Better luck on the next try. For your parlay, you were 3 for 5. You had the Browns -3. The Colts, we were both on the Colts last week. They let us down against the Falcons. I liked your picks and also Trevin's with the Bucks. I was on the Jags. You had the Bucks with 2.5 points. You're seeing something in Tampa that I'm not seeing recently. You had the over in the Packers-Panthers game. That game, I think, went up to like 63 points. So that was well over. And then I see the Patriots-Broncos under. Surprisingly, the Patriots won that game. And also, surprisingly, that game went over. I feel like those were 2 teams we wouldn't anticipate for that. But it's bad for the Broncos. And now, you follow the AFC West. I've seen all the news this week. It's looking like openly they're going to let Russell Wilson go in March.
Yeah, it looks like Russ's time in Denver is coming to an end. He's getting packed up. No more cooking for him. He's getting put in the fridge. I'm just begging the Raiders to not do anything stupid or heinous and sign him in the offseason. But I think I saw a tweet yesterday that I think the Saints are looking at it, or no, not the Saints. The Falcons are looking at him, the Commanders,
see
and
that.
I believe the Patriots. So those wouldn't be bad spots for him, I don't think.
When he had that free agency, he had a wish list in the offseason that his agent released. And I know the Cowboys were a part of his wish list. I know the Raiders were a part of his wish list, and also the Saints were a part of his wish list. Those are 3 teams that I remember. He goes to Denver, so it's not like maybe he didn't have much say there because he got traded from the Seahawks to Denver. But who knows? Maybe he gets his wish list. But those are definitely teams that could use help with a quarterback. I don't know. It's a really confusing topic because I feel like when they did win those 5 games, he looked good and he looked clutch down the stretch. But Sean Payton, I feel like really seems like an
Yeah.
authoritarian type coach. And he let Frank Clark go this year. Yeah, I think, he let another marquee Bradley Chubb, they let him go to the
Yeah.
Dolphins this year. He's down to clean house and just start from scratch. And he's got very little patience.
Yeah, 100%. I do think Russell Wilson is a top 32 quarterback. That's 100%. So he'll be on a team next year. I'm just hoping it's not the Raiders.
Yeah, and with the Raiders, you brought Jimmy G in, Aiden O'Connell. He's looked decent, but I don't know if he's looked great. But I feel like, we talk about the Raiders really quick. Their identity now is scrappy, punch you in the mouth, play good D, and that works. Like you
That's
take a
Raider
Chiefs like a
football.
high flying offense. They get a strip, fumble recover for a touchdown. And this guy, Jack Jones, 18, this guy's he's balling out. I
Another
heard
pick
I
six.
heard Pierce coached him at Long Beach State, so they got some familiarity. But 2 defensive touchdowns, 20-14 is still a win.
Yeah, no, 100%. The defense looks good. I think Antonio Pierce has cemented his kind of, tryout to be the coach next year. I wouldn't mind
Oh,
him being the
100%.
coach. Yeah, he'll be the coach next year. I think just because the Raiders won't do what they did with Rich Bisaccia a couple of years ago. I think they keep him, and I think it could be good. Looking around the league, I would like an offensive mind, one of these um, Stefanski or O'Connell in Minnesota, all these offensive minds. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is, they're still winning games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Joe Flacco looks like he did 15 years ago when he won a Super Bowl in Baltimore because they have an offensive mind. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll have a new OC, and if we have a good OC, I think that'd be a really good coaching staff. I don't think that Aiden O'Connell is the answer at quarterback. Not sure what we're gonna do. Not sure if the answer is Justin Fields. I wouldn't mind it that much, but I
Mm.
don't believe that there are a lot of quarterbacks in the market right now that I want. But I mean, I guess we'll see. Because I mean, if you don't got the quarterback, you're not winning games. Because I think if we had a quarterback, we'd be, we'd have at least 3 more wins. So, and that'd be in the playoff mix. So,
Yeah, I definitely think for the Raiders, that's a key piece. But to go against that statement, they did win that game 20-14 last week. And I believe there was some stat like the Raiders had like 1 pass completion in the second half or something like that and still won the game. So if you have
Aiden
that,
O'Connell, Aiden O'Connell didn't complete a pass since the first quarter of that game.
and they won, so wait, we
Crazy.
there's some shift going on with coaching, strong defense, but a quarterback coming in for them will definitely make all the world of the difference. I don't think it's Jimmy G. I think he got his shot this year and he kind of played himself out. I was using Ryan Tannehill as a comparison as well. He got lapped this year by Will Levis. Aiden O'Connell lapped Jimmy G. But in the offseason, maybe something could happen. You're saying you hope Russell Wilson wouldn't be there. I mean, I don't, not bad, if
Not terrible, but if that doesn't work, that's gonna get some people fired for sure.
yeah. So here we go. I'm gonna read off my parlay here. 2 for 6 last week. Terrible. I trusted the Bills to cover. That did not happen after they steamrolled the Cowboys the week before. The Colts +3. That did not happen against Atlanta. Packers took care of business against the Panthers. Broncos did not take care of business against the Patriots. The Chiefs did not take care of business against the Raiders. I was on the losing end of that. I said the Raiders would cover, but I didn't think they'd win the way they did. And then the Eagles money line against the Giants. I don't know if you can trust Philly to cover nowadays. For Survivor, Trevin he's dead. We got to revive him. A little Call of Duty Last Stand. He had the Broncos last week. You, LJ, you're surviving and flying into week 17 with the Seahawks. And I am dead in a horse gutter with the Colts. I mean, you've been winning money on the Colts. We were low on the Falcons. That was a burner last week. So here we go. We got the Saturday morning game this week. First one on the slate. This is going to be 8:30 on the East Coast. We're leaving week 16 in the past and on to week 17 for more success. This is the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to be hosting the Detroit Lions coming off a win. The Dallas Cowboys on a 2-game road losing streak, but they get to come back to home now. Cowboys lead this series 18-12 all time. This is dome weather, so nothing to worry about as far as weather inclement goes. Precipitation. Cowboys at home are 5.5-point favorites. The over is 52. We got playoff implications on the line here. Detroit is still within realm of catching a 1 seed in the NFC. LJ, do you think they can go into Dallas and take care of the Cowboys?
This is a fascinating game. Easily could be the game of the week. Two high flying offenses, and I think, man, when Dallas plays a good team, they just don't look like the typical juggernaut that they usually do when they play kind of a lower, below average team.
Love to
But
smack up on bad teams.
yeah, I mean, they're bullies, and we've been saying that all year. But the thing is, Detroit's defense is just not good, And what makes it tougher is usually Jared Goff, on the road outside is bad, but this is going to be a Jerry world. So, it's going to be in a dome. I think this is going to be a high flying game, but I think I'm going to go with Dallas here. They lost that one to Miami last week. And we just don't know with the lines. The lines are very inconsistent. Jared Goff is inconsistent. He'll have an awesome game one week, and then he'll come back and have a really bad game. Dallas' defense is still no joke. Not sure what the status of the Dallas Cowboys O-line and those guys are. You could tell they needed them last week. So I'm going to go with Dallas as the home team here. I think they get a bounce back game, but I do think that the Lions, give them a fight, but ultimately I'll take Dallas to cover here. I just think that this is a good spot for them. They got punched in the mouth last couple of weeks. And I think that the Lions defense just isn't enough for this Cowboys offense. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Dallas minus 5.5. This total is really high. I usually don't like taking over totals that are in the 50s, but I could see this just being a complete shootout. The Cowboys the Lions are not going to stop the Cowboys, but I do think that the Lions offense and their scheme can score on the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm going to go with Dallas to win outright 30-24 in a shootout.
That's a banger. That'll be a good football game to watch tomorrow night. Definitely something I would want to tune in for. For this game here, if I'm looking at the Cowboys, we were riding high after a win against the Eagles, handily beating them on Sunday night 3 weeks ago. And then the Dallas stock's really high. So let's take that wave and let's ride it into Buffalo. But we get smacked on the road in Buffalo. That was one of our worst losses of the season. Totally got demolished, stopping the run and also getting Dak sacked. And then we get another opportunity to go into Miami and play one of the best seeds in the AFC. And, if you watch that game, that was kind of a grinder, low scoring type game down to the end. Brandon Cooks gets a touchdown. We take the lead. And then Miami does drive down the field, though, is able to get that first down, get a field goal and win the game. So closer game, but nonetheless, it was still a loss. There's some improvement there for Dallas. The Lions coming down the back half stretch here. Let's look at some of their recent games. They're sitting at 11-4. And prior to this, they beat the Vikings last week, 30-24. The Broncos the week before, 42-17, but lost to the Bears the week before that. So the Lions took care handily of the Broncos, but barely squeaked by the Vikings last week. I'm going to go based on the fact that I just feel like Dallas is a scary team at home. I feel the same way that you do, where I feel like if you look at this, you should take Detroit to cover the 5.5 points, but Dallas sometimes can be bullies and they can be hot at home. And I feel like that's what Detroit's about to step into right now. And also, I do want to mention the fact that, yes, we lost the last 2 games, but also it's a good opportunity to get battle tested. So the Lions recently have played the Broncos and they played the Vikings. Well, we just played the Bills and the Dolphins. So we're getting that practice going into this game on this Sunday. So I'm going to take Dallas minus 5.5 points. I feel like their defense steps up this week and gets back on track, and the offense does as well. Detroit's biggest issue is they really don't have a pass rush. You have Aiden Hutchinson, but other than that, they're not getting to the quarterback enough. Their secondary is good, but they need more help getting pressure on the quarterback. Their run game's really solid. Jared Goff is playing solid, and their offense is good. Their defense is their weak link. So let's see how that plays this week. That could be good for the over, as you're mentioning, but I think Dallas's defense shows up this week. And that gives me a score of 27-21, Dallas -5.5, and under 52. So I'll be on the opposite side of over under island for you next week.
I'm not mad at that. I typically don't take totals this high, but this being a standalone game, who knows? I think we see some fireworks.
I see it too. I mean, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, turf field, indoors, long balls.
Be an awesome
I
game
can easily see and you know me, over-unders, those are staying far away from the parlays. All right, let's go. Sunday morning set here. This is 1 o'clock on the East Coast. We're going to jump over and get to watch the San Francisco 49ers. They're coming off of a rough loss to the Ravens on Monday night, quite possibly the Super Bowl matchup of the year. But the Ravens shut up a lot of people this last week, and the Niners need to get back to form. They'll have to go up against the Washington Commanders, who are doing a little testing down the stretch here. I believe Jacoby Brissett is going to get the start. But also I heard that he's questionable with a hamstring strain. So if he doesn't go, then we're going to see Sam Howell. Don't think that's a huge downgrade for them. The 49ers lead this series 22-12 all time. This game is mostly sunny with a high of 50, so no terrible weather that we have in the Mid-Atlantic region. San Francisco on the road, they are 12.5-point favorites. I believe that line has now jumped up to 13.5 points, but let's play it at 12.5 for the purposes of this podcast. The over-under is 50. LJ, we pass it to you. I think the question here is, do you think San Francisco smashes them and covers that spread? That's really the big question for this game.
I think this game is really interesting. Not sure if Trent Williams is slated to play. That's a big factor. But I wanted to take the Commanders at home to cover with Jacoby Brissett. He's looked good. He'll turn over the ball. The Niners are going to get a couple turnovers, but he won't have a forward turnover game like Sam Howell could. He won't get sacked, 8 times in one game like Sam Howell would. So that's why I liked it. But with him being banged up, Niners coming off in their first embarrassing loss of the entire season, I'm going to go with the Niners in a bounce back spot. I think that they're going to be motivated and that, traveling East Coast, they're going to be buttoned up. They're going to be ready to go. They know that if they win this game, they probably get to sit some guys the week after. So I'm going to go with the Niners to smash the Commanders here. I think that the Commanders defense is just so bad. We see what teams do. Look what the Jets did to them last week,
right. With
so
Simeon.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the Niners here. They're in playoff mode. They should smash. And then if Jacoby Brissett plays, I do like the over here. It's high. It's high for a reason, and I see why. Because if you look at the Niners, it's hard to run on them, but for the last few seasons, it's just you can pass on them. That's the thing. And when teams are losing by 3 scores, there's a lot of garbage time for them to score meaningless touchdowns. So give me the over in this game, and I'll take San Francisco to cover and San Francisco to win 33-20.
2 overs and 2 spreads to start the podcast. That's the trend that we're on thus far. Hey, we got some
uncharacteristic.
It's a target practice. Jacoby Brissett gets to go out there and sling it. What do you have to lose? You got nothing to lose. It's the last 2 games of the season. Why not sling the rock? Journeyman quarterback, and for the Niners, they have a lot of motivation to take out frustration that they had for the week before. So that could bode some scoring for them. Let's just look at the NFC playoff picture here and understand that the table is set for the 49ers. They're sitting at 11-4, and they already beat the Eagles and they already beat the Cowboys this year. So if they win, they go to 12-4. The Eagles are also at 11-4. So if they win this week, that pushes them to 12-4. And also the Lions are 11-4 as well. So if they can take care of the Cowboys, that pushes them to 12-4. I'm not sure what's going to happen between the Lions and the Niners because they have not played each other this season. But if they end up having the same record, the point I'm trying to make is San Francisco has a lot to play for in these last 2 games. And then also Detroit has a lot to play for in these last 2 games because I think any team wants to get a 1 seed and get a bye with home field advantage going into the playoffs. For this game, last week, I know that with the information that we had with Trevor Siemian being quarterback, we jumped on the Commanders to win that game. That ended up being high scoring. But I'm going here with a Niners defense. traveling on the road. You know, you get Chase Young coming back to town. Maybe he's going to amp up his defense to try to go back and get a win for how that situation ended with them. Niners covering, I definitely feel safe about that. Would I put 12.5 points in a parlay? No, I can't put 12.5 points in a parlay, because when you put 12.5 points in the parlay, like the Bills last week, they fuck you over. So be careful with that. But for the purposes of these picks, Niners minus 12.5. I'm going to go under 50. Big day for their defense. And I got a score of 30-17. Niners taking care of business. So I also will be on the opposite side of Over Island for you going into week 18. All right, next up, we have the Arizona Cardinals. They're going to play the Philadelphia Eagles this week. Eagles a little bit tricky. They're winning, but not really covering. They're looking vulnerable, not the heavyweight champs smashing teams the way that they were last year. And the Cardinals are one of those teams we like to cover, but also they did not cover against the Bears last week. They were not able to get that job done. And we'll get to Chicago in a little bit. Cardinals lead this series 60-57 all time. This game is mostly sunny with a high of 46. Philadelphia and Washington are not too far for each other. Philadelphia is a 12-point favorite in this game. The over-under is 48.5. LJ, is this the week Philly can cover, or are we still riding with Arizona to do what we think they can do?
Yeah, give me Arizona in this spot, not because I think that, they're a good team at all. I mean, when was the last time Philly covered a game? Their defense is just, I don't know. They just seem like the team that they don't care to cover. They don't care to blow teams out, and we've seen that over the last few weeks. Last week could have been because it was an in-division game. Those are typically closer than usual. I do think if the Eagles are going to be that championship contending team, that one seed, I mean, they're going to have to bounce back and smash somebody, sometime. And this definitely could be the week, but I'm going to go with what I've seen the last, couple months. So give me Arizona plus a 12. I do think that this game stays under. I do think Philly still wins, but 12 points is kind of a lot for a team that rarely covers. So give me the Cardinals to cover the 12, even the under 48.5, and give me Philly to win 27-17. I think they win handily, but 12, I think this is about a 10-point game, kind of like last week.
Well, I pretty much have the exact same score as you, off by 3 points, give or take. Yeah, last week the Giants put up 25 points. So what you're mentioning with the Eagles defense, that shows them as being vulnerable. We like what we're saying about the Cardinals with covering the 12 points. That's too much. What I want to tell you is, it being a Cowboys fan, the best was watching that game last week, and the Eagles get a kickoff, and Zacchaeus literally tackles his own player as an offensive blocker. That was just great. That just shows kind of where the Eagles are right now, making mistakes that they don't normally make, and they're looking a little wobbly right now. I was surprised. I mean, both you and I had them covering against the Giants last week. Why not? And they didn't. So transitive property, where we stand here. For me, Arizona plus 12. I know they didn't cover against the Bears last week, but Kyler Murray's one of those guys where I feel like he's a gamer. I don't want to get too deep into him, but I feel like he can play against anyone on any given weekend, meaning that I'm not going to comment on if I think he's the quarterback of the future for Arizona or not, but I definitely think he's a great quarterback. He's worthy of playing in the NFL, and he can put up points against anyone. He can win on any given day. So that's dicey for Philadelphia, who is looking a little wobbly. Kyler Murray can come into Pittsburgh and get a win. He can come into Philly and get a win. I believe both of those are true. Arizona plus 12, under 48.5 as well. I agree with you. We're going to be on the same symmetry for this game. I feel like just Philly being at home, their defense can correct some things, getting ready to go into the playoffs. And, this is not a great opponent that they're playing. So this is the Eagles. You're favored by 12 points for a reason. You should be able to take care of the Cardinals. There are some wobbliness, though, that we worry about, and that affects Arizona covering 12 points. Philly 27-20. You've got 27-17 this week. Okay, next up, let's go New England Patriots. This is AFC East. They're going to play the Buffalo Bills. Patriots coming off a win last week. I don't know if you're following a trend with them, but they're covering and winning games like within the last 3 or 4 games here. Buffalo Bills, they fucked me at the drive-through, did not cover that 12.5 points last week against the Chargers. So I'm not sure how I feel about them this week. Patriots, they lived the series 78-49 all time. Interesting weather. I know we mentioned in Washington and Philadelphia, we have sunny days, but there is a chance of snow showers before noon in Buffalo, then rain and snow showers likely, and a high near 37. So I'm feeling some precipitation here in Buffalo this weekend, Sunday afternoon. Buffalo, they were 12.5-point favorites last week. Now they're 13-point favorites this week at home. The over-under is a low one at 40. LJ, I pass it to you. I mean, the Bills are, they're in timeout for sure, but 13 points. Do you think that they have the desire to hammer the Patriots this week?
This is another tough game, but I'm just low-key a Bills fan. I just think that they are one of the best teams in the AFC.
Until you need them.
And I think last week was their letdown. I don't think they have 2 letdowns in a row after the way that they've been playing. So give me the Bills in this spot to lay the hammer on the Patriots. Patriots got their kind of their surprise win last week. Don't think that they're good at all. So I'm going to go with the Bills here. As far as the total goes, not too sure. I initially like the over just because I think the Bills kind of rout them, and they usually do. Except for the very first game. That's another factor. They're going to be motivated to kind of bounce back because I think the Patriots beat them earlier in the season. Not sure if they did or not, but I know it was.
That was a parlay shooter.
Yeah, they beat them outright. So I'm gonna take the Bills here to smash the Patriots. As far as the total goes, I'd take a look at the weather. I got over 40 right now, and with Buffalo with a score of 28-13. But I mean, if it's snowing, I can't imagine the Patriots scoring very many points. So give me the Bills here.
Yeah, so for this game, I'll go to a current weather report, and I had that one as of last night. But for this game Sunday, we are looking at chance of rain, snow, then rain, snow likely, a high of 38. But if you're sitting at a high of 38, that's sounding like sleet to me. So I feel like this is going to be one of those rain cold games. But with Buffalo, it's not like you're playing in mud. You're playing on the turf. So, NFL players still put up points. That's not a huge deterrent. Now, if you're playing on a field full of snow, then it's just way too hard to get your footing, and those unders are looking good. But for this week, you like over and you like Bills to cover, Bills to lay the hammer. I wish you could have gave me this confidence last week because I was feeling that Bills hammer wave, whatever you want to call it, after what they did to the Cowboys. For this week, principle of law of attraction. I'm not picking Buffalo minus 13. You are in spread timeout. New England plus 13. Have to pick them to stay within that. I'm actually going to go over 40 for this matchup. I do see precipitation being a factor. I don't see Buffalo going over 24 points in this game, and I don't see the Patriots going over 17 points in this game. So give me the Bills to win 24-17. I am eyeing them for the parlay this week, but 13 points, hell no. Okay, next up here, this is the best game of the week. These are 2 heavy hitters with the number 1 seed on the line in your conference, which is the AFC. So this is going to be a good game to pick here. The Miami Dolphins, they're going up to play the Baltimore Ravens, who are coming off their massive win against the Niners last week. But also the Dolphins took care of the Cowboys last week. So if you're an AFC fan, that was a good week last week, taking out 2 of the top dogs in the NFC. The Ravens lead this series 10-8 all time. This game is going to be mostly sunny with a high of 51. Philadelphia, Washington, and Baltimore are all close to each other as cities. Baltimore is a -3 favorite point in this matchup. The over-under is 47. LJ, being that this is your conference, the AFC, and you've been following both teams, does Miami have something up their sleeve here, or is Baltimore really just the best team in the NFL?
This is another tough game, another awesome game, but I have Miami to cover the 3.5 here. I just think the Baltimore Ravens, with that win that they had against San Francisco last week, that might have been, I mean, it was 100% their best win of the entire season. This could be a little bit of a letdown spot, but I guess I could say the same thing about the Dolphins. They did beat the Cowboys at home. So I'm gonna go with Miami because I think that these teams are, two top two of the best teams in the AFC. So I think this could be a field goal game. I do, wonder a little bit. I could see Baltimore smashing Miami and Tua just going straight into his kind of where he just kind of just fumbles all over the place, turns over the ball, and the Ravens kind of smash them, push them around. But what I've seen out of the Miami defense has been really good ever since Jalen Ramsey came back. Their defense has been top notch. But ultimately, I'm going to go with Miami here. I think that they cover 3.5. I'm going to go with the under. Two really good defensive teams here, and I have Baltimore to win by a field goal. I do think that they're the slightly better team. So give me Baltimore 24, Miami Dolphins 21.
All right, so the Fins head up to Baltimore. They're going to put up a good fight. They're going to keep this game close. Baltimore's defense is solid, so we're going to take a high-scoring offense in the Fins and keep them in check. I mean, the Dolphins just played against the Cowboys and put up 22 points total, and I both venture to say we think that the Ravens' defense is better than the Cowboys' defense. So 21 points is right around that range that they were last week as well. But this game goes under because of both defenses playing solid. 24-21 Ravens. And then for the Ravens, I'm pretty sure, I mean, that's going to push them to the 1 seed. But the interesting thing for the Ravens is that the Browns won last night, and that puts the Browns, I believe, at 11-5 on the season. So if the Ravens win this one, they'll go to 13-3. And I don't think there's any AFC North showdown that's going to happen in the last week because I'm pretty sure these teams play each other next week, but I'm not 100% on that. I thought that the division was going to come down to the Browns and the Ravens next weekend. But if Baltimore wins this game, I think they should lock up that division and lock up that 1 seed for the AFC. So this is their season pretty much. Miami, though, in a similar position, they're sitting there potentially as the 1 seed in the AFC. Their record is 11-4. If they can win this, they'll go to 12-4. And that would also put the Ravens at 12-4. And if they're both 12-4, Miami gets the nod with the head-to-head. So Miami will go ahead of them. So this is Miami's, not their Super Bowl, but this is their regular season Super Bowl. With all those stakes and odds being said, I got to ride the Ravens this week. That team that went across the country, I feel like that team, if they can stay healthy, looks like they're destined to go all the way as it looks right now. I know the playoffs always have tricks that we can't anticipate for, but as of right now, that's looking like the best defense in football to me. And Lamar Jackson, I don't know where you stand on this, but I mean, he's playing the best on a team that's got the best record. So for me, it's hard not to nod your cap to give him the MVP if you are going to be the 1 seed in the NFL and beating a lot of the great opponents that they have, especially beating the Niners, because we held the Niners to the highest standard, and every media outlet did too. And they just demolished a team that we all thought was impeccable. Baltimore -3. Over 47. I definitely can see the Dolphins keeping this close, but I feel like Baltimore's got more strength on that team that the Dolphins don't have, and that's going to affect me picking this spread here. Baltimore 27-23. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to a field goal, but I feel like Baltimore has more from top to bottom. Okay, next up, we have the NFC South. This is the New Orleans Saints. They're going to play the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Saints lead the series 39-25 all time. This game is sunny with a high of 65, so no weather issues in Tampa this week. Tampa is 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 42. LJ, you picked the Bucks to take care of the Jags last week, and you were right about that. Are you still riding the Bucks wave going into week 17?
I've been winning a lot of money due to these Bucks, but
What's gotten into the Bucks?
Their defense is really bad, and I feel like their defense has been banged up. They're probably going to be a wild card team, but I think in this spot, I'm going to take the Saints.
Wow.
I'm gonna I'm gonna take the Saints. I hate the Saints. I love the Bucks, but I just feel like I'm buying low on the Saints right now. The Rams are just really good. What we saw last week, the Rams are gonna be a wild card team. They're legit. They look like a 2020 kind of Rams team with that offense. And the Saints kind of started to catch up at the end of that game. And I think that I like the Bucks way better when they're the underdog.
Mm.
When they're
Baker
riding hot,
Mayfield's the underdog.
you know what I mean? Like I just give me the Saints in this spot. I don't know. I just have a feeling that the Saints pull this one out. They might want it a little bit more. The only thing keeping me positive, I don't think Marshawn Lattimore is there to give Mike Evans,
The business.
you know,
Give it like 2 quarters, they'll
son,
be fighting.
yeah, son him like he always does. But I'm gonna go with the Saints here plus 2.5. I think that they win this game. I think the Bucks kind of have a little letdown spot. They've been riding really, really high. So give me the Saints to win outright. Give me the over 42 and give me the Saints to win 24-21 by a field goal. This should be an interesting game.
Wow. Okay, let's look at the NFC South here. The Bucks are 8-7, the Falcons are 7-8, the Saints are 7-8. If the Saints win this game, they go to 8-8, the Bucks go to 8-8. We haven't gotten to the Falcons game yet, but I feel like it's very likely going into week 18 that we could have 3 teams that are 8-8 in that division. One team will need to get a 9th win to even just go to the playoffs. The weird thing about the NFL, though, is that if you win your division, you get to host a playoff game. So the Bucks, let's say, or maybe even the Saints, let's say, if they punch their 9-8 ticket,
like
yeah, they may get to the Cowboys or a 5 seed to come to town.
It's like congrats, you made the playoffs, but I mean now Dallas is coming into your home week 1 or playoffs round 1. So
yeah, here comes the hammer.
yeah.
Look, for this week, I'm surprised. I thought you were going to stay on the Bucks wagon because you've been on them for the last like 3 weeks. They took care of the Falcons. They took care of the Packers. And I'm surprised because I was looking at Jaguars team. I don't know what the hell is going on with the Jaguars right now, but the Jaguars got smoked by the Bucks last week, and I didn't see that coming at all. So give me the Bucks based on this momentum that they got going on. I can't pick the Saints. I'm so low on their totem pole. Saints unders. I mean, we've been saying it all year, but I just feel like that team doesn't have much of an identity. They can't decide who their quarterback is. You put Derek Carr in, then you put in Taysom Hill, you flip-flop them, and you don't really know what you got going on there. Alvin Kamara is a great player, but he's not shredding the way that he normally does, and the defense normally is really solid, but the Rams put some work on them last week. So Bucks minus 2.5, under 42. Give me Tampa 23-17. All I can say is what the hell has gotten into Tampa Bay recently? They're winning football games. Okay, next up, let's go to the LA Rams, who you were talking about, playing some real hot football coming down the stretch here. They're going to play the New York Giants this week, who gave Philadelphia some competition, but ultimately could not get the win last week. The Rams lead this series 29-17 all time. This game is mostly sunny with a high of 46. So the trend that I'm getting here is the Northeast has good weather this weekend. So we don't have to worry about too much precipitation other than Buffalo this week. The Rams on the road are 5.5-point favorites. The over-under is 43. LJ, I mean, this kind of speaks to me. I like 2.5 and I like 5.5 points. Is this a great spot for the Rams this week?
I wouldn't say it's a great spot for them, but the way that they've been, one of the hottest teams in the entire NFL. Like I mentioned earlier, that offense is high flying right now. Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, these guys who were drafted as late round picks, just absolute studs.
Playing way above their expectation.
I wish Danny DeVito or whatever his name, the Italian Tommy DeVito. I wish he was playing, but Tyrod's there, but man, he takes care of the ball. He's a great game manager. Yeah. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. So I was close to taking the Giants, but I think the Rams, They're too hot. I can't get in the way of that train right now. I'm gonna go with the Rams here. I wouldn't bet this game. I could see the Giants being a sneaky team in this spot. I mean, and the Rams are playing the Niners next week. They're probably looking ahead to that game. They're flying East Coast. I would say this is a terrible spot for
Trap
the
spot.
Rams, but I just think that they might be. I mean, they got their eyes on the wild card spot, so I'm gonna go with Sean McVay and the Rams here. So give me the Rams -5.5. I'll go with the under here. I could see this being a lower scoring game. Giants struggling to score a little bit because the Rams defense has been better as well. So give me the Rams to win 24-14. Don't feel good about it. Wouldn't put this in the parlay, but give me the Rams.
You said everything I wanted to hear. You just said it with no conviction. Okay. So I have everything the same as you, but I've got that with conviction. And I'm coming out now the same way I was talking about the Bills last week. So this is a setup for me saying, what the fuck? But with the Rams, I feel like 5.5 points. That's very appetizing for them based on how they've looked, these past weeks. And the Giants, I feel like, you're competitive, but not much to play for. And this team has a lot more to play for. They've looked solid. So if they're focused, they should handle the Giants based on, the wins that I riddled off recently, and even a bad loss on the East Coast to Baltimore. A good loss on the road to Baltimore, going to overtime toe-to-toe with who we just mentioned is the best team in football, the Ravens. I love the Rams this week. I don't want to second guess it. Maybe it's because I'm a Cowboys fan and I think that the Giants suck, but I think the Giants suck. So I'm going to keep playing the fact that the Giants suck. The Rams don't suck. This should be obvious. Rams -5.5, under 43, because I don't see the Giants offense putting up a ton of points. You had 24-14. I'm going to take 28-14 Rams this week. And I'm definitely eyeing the Rams for the parlay this week. 5.5 points. Yeah, it is a spread, but also, at any given game, if it goes to overtime, the Rams can win by a touchdown. I'm not overthinking that. Rams -5.5. And that's one of the best things I like so far. Okay, Carolina Panthers. They're coming off of covering last week against the Packers, but not getting a win. They're going to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. I've looked at it. The Jaguars are on a 4-game losing streak. So this is like hot water for the Jaguars based on how they started the season. They need to figure something out here because they've lost 4 games. They may fucking slip out of the playoffs. I don't know, what might happen to them here, but they got to get their act together. The Panthers lead the series 4-3 all time. This is patchy frost, then sunny, high 61. So I think we're looking at good weather in Jacksonville, also good weather in Tampa Bay this weekend. Jacksonville at home is a 6-point favorite. The over-under is pretty low at 38. LJ, this is your conference, the AFC. Do you think the Jaguars can get their act together, or do you think the Panthers are going to play spoiler this week?
This one's tough. The Jaguars are like the opposite of the Rams, started off hot and they've just been in a complete down spiral. And I think it's due to just Trevor Lawrence not being healthy. This dude gets hurt every single game. He gets a new injury, every single game, but he still continues to play. But I mean, the Panthers are a scrappy team. They're easily the worst team in the NFL, I think, but their defense just shows up sometimes. This worries me a little bit that they're on the road, but I can't lay close to 6 points with a Jacksonville team that's been struggling, beat up all over on both sides of the football. So give me the Panthers here. I think the Jaguars win outright, but give me the Panthers to keep it somewhat close. That defense can keep it close. So I'm going to go with Carolina to cover the 6. This total is a little tricky. Because I feel like if you like Carolina, you probably go under, but I'm going to go with the over. I think that, we've seen the last couple of weeks, the Carolina Panthers can score on bad
30 points last week.
The Packers defense I'd say is, equivalent to this Jaguars defense the last couple of weeks. So give me the over in this game and give me the Carolina Panthers to cover, but give me Jacksonville to win 24-20. I think they still pull out the win just because the Panthers, they just find a way to lose, but I think that they cover the 6 points.
Panthers +6, over 38, Jags 24-20. What's your level of confidence? It doesn't sound super confident that the Jags will win this game.
I mean, I'm more confident. I'd say I'm more confident that the Jaguars win this game than I am confident that the Carolina Panthers will cover the 6 points. I'll put it that way. But ultimately, in terms of picks, I mean, there's just some teams that are just doing so bad right now, and this is a way that you can get burned because some of these teams that are, quote unquote contenders or playoff teams usually do bounce back and you get burned. So, I mean, proceed with caution, but give me the Panthers in this spot.
And that's how I'm feeling for this game. I'm definitely feeling cautious for this matchup where I should feel confident based on how both of these teams have looked for the better part of the season. But if we're following a trend here, I had mentioned the Jaguars are on a 4-game losing streak. So I don't know what to make of the Jaguars. I had picked them last week against the Bucks. I was saying just organizationally, culture-wise, coaching-wise, roster-wise, I like the Jaguars. I've seen the Jaguars look really good, but they lost pretty handily last week to the Bucks. So it's definitely a +6 territory based on where these teams have been trending in recent weeks. The reason I'm asking you that is just to provide a little self-assurance for myself, but I'm looking at the games this week. I think Jags money line is definitely something that I mean, this team, I mean, come on, you started off the season beating teams like the Bills. You've beaten a lot of solid teams in the NFL. We expected you to be a top 3 or 4 seed in the AFC going into the playoffs, and now they're sitting at 8-7. So I feel like for the Jags, I just have to ride that they are a 9-7 football team that should go to the playoffs. They have not looked like themselves lately, but with the team and an opponent that they're getting with 2 wins total on the season going into this game, I'm going to have to ride that they can take care of business. If they don't, obviously you got to get off the Jags bandwagon because that would be a 5-game losing streak. Jacksonville -6, be who you should be, over 38 as well, and Jaguars 24-17. We are on the opposite side of Spread Island this week, but Jaguars money line, if not by a field goal. I feel like that's something that should happen this weekend. This is the NFL though, so proceed with caution. All right, we got LJ's team here, the Las Vegas Raiders. They're coming off of a win last week against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to play the Indianapolis Colts, who came off of a loss last week in Atlanta. The Raiders in this matchup for the East Coast 1:00 games are 11-10 all time against the Colts. We have dome weather, not too much weather to worry about in Indianapolis. The Colts at home are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 42.5. LJ, you've been following the Raiders recently with, being 3.5-point dogs here now. Do you like that number? Do you think that they can build on what they created last week against the Chiefs, or do the Colts get a bounce back spot here coming off of a loss against the Falcons?
I do. I like the Raiders here. Not just saying that because I am a Raider fan. I think that this is a field goal game. I think that these teams are honestly pretty even teams. We've been betting the Colts for a few weeks now. That was a tough one last week versus the Falcons, who you and I both hate very much. But give me the Raiders here. I think these teams are just even teams. I think that this spread should be a field, maybe Colts -3. So with that being said, give me Vegas with the hook, the 3.5. I do think that this game stays under the 42.5 points, just because the Raiders offense isn't the best thing since sliced bread. So give me the Raiders to cover the 3.5. Give me the under 42.5, and give me the Raiders, my Raiders, to win by a field goal, 23-20.
Oh, there we go. So we're going 0.5 point over the 42.5, and then the Raiders covering that 3.5. The Colts, they are sitting on, 8-7 for the season, same as the Jaguars, also same as the Texans. We haven't talked about the AFC South, similar to the NFC South, but you got 3 teams there with basically the same record. Raiders sitting at 7-8. If they can win this one, that pushes them to 8-8. And I feel like if the Raiders do end up 9-8 on the season, that's something to feel good about, especially with the coaching change that they had. But definitely a lot of positives to pull from for them, especially beating the Chiefs last week, where I feel like they found their coach for the future, and they found an identity to build on for the future as well. Um, Look, I mean, looking at the Colts for this season, I would say the Colts are the better team than the Raiders. But the Colts did let us down last week against the Falcons. So that's something that I would jump off of for this week. So for this matchup that we have here, I'm going to go Colts -3.5. I definitely could see this coming down to a field goal. But I like Indianapolis to win this one 21-17. I feel like they could catch fire. Maybe their defense plays a little bit better. But I'm going to go Colts -3.5, under 42.5, and Colts to take this one 21-17 for this matchup. Okay, speaking of that AFC South, this is the Tennessee Titans with the same record as the Houston Texans. They are going to host this matchup here. The Titans lead this series 23-20 all time. This is dome weather, so not too much to worry about. CJ Stroud is going to be getting the start for Houston Texans, so maybe he has a little playoff magic within these last two games here. Houston at home is 4-point favorites. The over/under is 44. LJ, how do you feel about this showdown in the AFC South this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Titans here. This one was tough. Texans are getting CJ Stroud back, rookie phenom. So it's a little risky to take the, worst team in this spot. But I mean, like we say about Tomlin, Vrabel is just an underdog coach. When he's a dog, they just typically do better. I think Will Levis might be back, and they didn't look too bad versus the Seahawks last week. So I'm going to take the Titans here. Give me the over. I have a lot of overs this week. I can see this one going under, not confident about it, but I'm going to take the Houston Texans to win by a field goal, but I think that Tennessee keeps it close. So give me Houston 24, Titans 21, but I just give me Mike Vrabel when it comes to being an underdog. Usually has his team ready to go.
Very similar score to you this week. We're on par for a lot of these scores. Last week, you had the Seahawks. I took the Titans to cover. They're one of those teams that I'm mentioning that I feel like they can scrap. So with 4 points, I feel like Tennessee is playing, or at least it's just one of those teams that they like to cover. Cannot pick them to win against the Texans based on how both teams have looked this season. I'm just interested in Houston because the high that they were riding for a while there, it did sort of come to a crash when they lost to the Jets. And let me just look at, and they also got stomped out at home by the Browns last week, but they had Case Keenum as their quarterback. So I'm not really sure where we are right now with the Texans, but it feels as of last week that that's a team that could slip from the playoffs. But here comes CJ Stroud back to the rescue. Does he have what it takes with, guys like Nico Collins being questionable and Tank Dell out for the season? Does he have enough to oust the Titans and show us a lot of that magic that he had earlier in the season? That's what's worth talking about in this game, because Tennessee's out of the playoff picture here, but Houston could be a playoff team here. I'm going to ride that he does. I'm going to ride that, CJ Stroud is capable of getting a win in this matchup, coming back to the Texans. Maybe they're a playoff team, because if they win this game, they'll be 9-7. So their potential within that wild card slot, along with teams like the Colts that we're talking about, and a lot of other fringe teams as well. Tennessee +4. They're good at covering. I'm actually going to go under 44. I have a similar score to you, but I've got the Texans winning this one 23-20. And let's just keep our eye on them. Maybe they could be a wild card team that could cause some problems in the playoffs. Okay, Atlanta Falcons in the NFC South. They're going up to play the Chicago Bears this week. Bears have been playing some pretty good football recently. Falcons got a win last week. In this matchup, the Bears lead this series 8-7 all time. I believe there's a chance of snow in this matchup with a high of 36. So we could see some snow in Chicago this weekend. Chicago at home is 3-point favorites. The over/under is 38. LJ, I know we're low on the Falcons, but do they have any surprises this week for Chicago?
Yeah, give me Chicago here. I just can't figure the Falcons out. So I'm just going to continue to fade them. I don't know what it is about the Bears, but I feel like they're just like an all right team. Like they, for whatever reason, just win games. It's interesting to to think about what they're going to do about the quarterback situation. We know they're drafting Caleb Williams. It's almost inevitable at this point, but it's just crazy to see. I mean, to think what they're going to do with their coach, because I can't really get a grasp of if they're good, if they're bad. But
I
give
feel like
me
I feel like really quick, that's an interesting topic. Would you keep Fields going forward, or would you look for the future?
Nah, I would. Caleb Williams is, Andrew Luck level prospect
Mhm.
coming into the league. I don't think that they keep Justin Fields. Justin Fields has just been banged up too much every season he's been in the NFL. He'll definitely get a he'll I mean, I wouldn't mind Justin Fields on the Raiders.
Mhm.
I could see the Falcons. I could see this being a tryout for the Atlanta Falcons, Justin Fields this week. So give me the Bears. Give me the, the outdoor team hosting the dome team in a cold matchup. Both teams are going to want to run the ball. So I'm going to go ahead and take the under in this game. Both defenses actually pretty good, but I'm going to go with the Bears here just because they're the home team. I wouldn't say that they're the better team. I think that these teams are pretty even. So give me the Bears minus 2.5, under 38. I think both teams try to, pound the rock a little bit in this weather. And I'm going to take the Bears to win by a field goal. I believe I have Chicago um, 20, Atlanta 17.
The 2017 score that we saw with the Seahawks and the Titans last week, that's definitely an NFL score that's common to pick, and a lot of games do come down to field goals. Bears would get the win, though, and be on the better side. For me, I feel like Justin Fields for sure is an NFL quarterback, but he's got to be in the right situation. And I feel like Chicago is a very toxic situation to be in. So I'd be very interested, to see what would it look like if Justin Fields played in San Francisco, or a team where he's got great O-line, great running game, great weapons all around him. How's that situation going to look? So I definitely think he's an NFL quarterback and capable of playing. But what should the Bears do going forward? I think you've seen the experiment enough to know that maybe he's not going to get you over the top if you are Chicago. And if you do have, but with Chicago, they're not the worst team. So do they just have that draft pick already locked up? Is that what it's looking like for them with Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I think Caleb Williams is just too good of a prospect to pass up, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll figure it out from there. What I think that they're going to do is they're going to trade away Justin Fields, so they're probably going to get a first or second round pick for him because he's still young. He's a capable quarterback.
Huh.
My thoughts are if Jim Harbaugh is available, I think they get a new coach or like a Ben Johnson and kind of just start from scratch and start with Caleb Williams with a new
Mm-hmm.
coach. That's my thoughts.
So
I don't know. It's interesting.
the point I'm trying to make is I'm not sure what draft position the Bears might already have from years prior with
Oh,
trading, but the Bears, they're 6-9. And if they win this week, they'll be 7-9. So they're definitely not the first pick if it just goes standard. But if they already
no,
have,
they already have the first pick pretty much locked up
okay, yeah. So
because
yeah,
they have the Panthers pick.
okay, I got you. Okay, yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So then that definitely does sound like maybe quarterback for the future there for them. Yeah, for me this week, Chicago -3, under 38. We're low on the Falcons totem pole, but I actually have them winning by more than a field goal to spite the Falcons, 21-14 this week. But don't trust the Bears enough to put them in a parlay for the week. All right, let's go Sunday afternoon set here. We had a lot of games to go over in the morning set. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to play the Seattle Seahawks this weekend. The Steelers are coming off of a big win last week against the Bengals. The Seahawks are coming off of a squeak win against the Titans this week. Both teams are still within playoff contention. This series is tied 10-10 all time. This is a rematch of the 2006 Super Bowl. There's a chance of showers in Seattle with a high of 50. Seattle at home is a 3.5-point favorite. The over-under is 41. LJ, I don't know how to preface this one, but the Steelers, they can get you if you get them on the wrong day. Mike Tomlin is an underdog. You're mentioning Mike Vrabel as well. They're good in underdog spots, but the Seahawks did win last week. So how do you feel about this matchup Sunday?
This is a tough game. I think these are actually two even teams. When I look at each team, I think that they mirror each other very well. Um, but I think I'm gonna go with this. I think I want to go with the Steelers here just because it's, similar to the Raiders. It's at 3.5, 3 is
Mm-hmm.
a key number. And when I think two teams are pretty much even, just
Field
give me
goal
the
game.
dog. Give me the dog with the hook, the 3.5. I think that the Seahawks win. These are two teams that want to run the football, two teams that hang their hat on their defense. And so give me the Steelers to cover the 3.5 here. I'm gonna go with under in this game, under the 41 points. But I think the Seahawks win by a field goal, them being the home team, kind of similar to last week. But I think the Steelers ultimately cover that 3.5. So give me the Steelers to cover the 3.5, give me the under 41, and give me the Seahawks to win outright by a field goal.
Steelers sitting at 8-7, and then if we jump over to the NFC, the Seahawks are sitting at 8-7 as well. So when you're saying these teams are similar, they mirror each other, they have the exact same record. So two 8-7 teams. This is a big game for both teams because if one of them wins, they go to 9-7, and that's probably good enough to get a wild card spot in each division. So big matchup. Can the Steelers go all the way across the country though and play the type of game that they played last weekend? Because I feel like they played that way because they were at home last weekend. All the cards were aligning for them. They got hot right out of the gate. And then Cincinnati just ran into a trap that they weren't going to get out of. That game was 21-0 or 21-7 pretty quickly in the first half there. For this matchup, I got to go with my guy, Geno Smith, over Mason Rudolph. I trust him more than I trust Mason Rudolph. Although Mason Rudolph had a great game last week, that game was at home. This isn't a different environment. We consider the 12s to be some of the best fans or some of the toughest environments to play in the entire NFL. So home advantage goes to Seattle. I believe Geno Smith is going to get the start. I like that more than Drew Lock for the Seahawks. And I'm going to ride the home team in this one. The Steelers have been fluky. There's a reason that they're 8-7. They win one week, they lose the next week. They're back and forth. They're hard to put your finger on. But I'm going to put my finger on a roster, which I think is better offensive weapons for Seattle. Not stoked on Seattle's defense. I feel like they have names on their defense, but it actually doesn't end up manifesting that way. So I see Pittsburgh being able to run the ball against the Seahawks this weekend. But give me the same score as last week, 20-17. Seahawks will take this one. And I agree with you, the Steelers to cover. Definitely not a best bet this week with two 8-7 teams. All right, next up, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. They're going to play the Kansas City Chiefs this week. Bengals, I believe, are sitting at 8-7 on the season. Let me just double check that really quick here. Yep, 8-7. And then the Chiefs are at 9-6. Not at their normal form, but still sitting atop the AFC West. The Bengals lead the series 18-15 all time. This game's partly sunny with a high of 34. The Chiefs are 6.5-point favorites at home. The over-under is 44. LJ, I feel like the Chiefs have not been covering recently. Is this the week that they can cover and get some frustrations out on Cincinnati?
I don't think so. But I mean, like I said, with the Jags and some of these other teams with, Super Bowl contending teams or playoff teams or annual playoff teams, you could get burned, playing the dog with a backup quarterback. But I'm gonna take them. I just don't think that the Chiefs are very good at all this year. And it's weird to see them being so pedestrian when they're usually like, oh, well, the Chiefs are probably going to be in the Super Bowl again, and probably wouldn't be surprised if they were, came out of the AFC once again. But, watching that full game versus the Raiders, their offense just doesn't look the same as it usually does. Travis Kelce looks washed. Their receivers are, they're Jags. They're just the guys. So give me the Bengals here. I think that the Bengals they're playing for a wild card spot also. If the Bengals win, the Chiefs and the Bengals have the same exact record. So,
Nine and seven.
which is crazy to think. So give me the Bengals in a bounce back spot here. This isn't because I'm high on the Bengals. I'm pretty low on the Chiefs right now until they show me that they're
Mm-hmm.
that high-powered offense. Give me the dog. So I'll take the Bengals plus 6.5. That's a lot of points. Give me the over in this game as well. I mean, Jamar Chase has been practicing. Not sure if he's going to play, but if he plays, I definitely like the Bengals even more. But I do think that, you know, given the Chiefs' offensive struggles, I think they struggle a little bit. But I mean, the Bengals' defense isn't very good either. We saw that versus Pittsburgh last week.
Mm-hmm.
So keep me over in this game. And I think the Chiefs will win. You know, still they should win, but I think that this game is closer than people might expect. So give me the Bengals to cover 6.5 over 44 points, and give me KC to win 24-21.
All right, similar score that you have to, or same score that you have in that Baltimore and Miami game, 24-21. We're looking at a good showdown here coming down to the wire, but the Chiefs winning by a field goal. The Bengals situation gets interesting when Jake Browning comes in. They beat the Jaguars on Monday night. This was four weeks ago. And then the week after that, they handled the Colts at home. Then they squeaked out a win against the Vikings. So, all right, Bengals are on an upward trajectory here. But then last week, they laid a bomb in Pittsburgh and got blown out 34-11. The Chiefs, on the other hand, they've been a little wishy-washy coming down the stretch here. Some of their games to mention recently that I can lay out. They lost to the Raiders. They beat the Patriots. They lost to the Bills. And they lost to the Packers. So they're 2-2 in their last four. If this isn't the week that they're going to do it, I really think that you can kind of write that script that this just isn't the Chiefs season. But I'm going to ride Patrick Mahomes. He's looked frantic. He's always like freaking out at the end of games now. He's like looking to point fingers, someone to blame. But I feel like that really is the Chiefs' current mood is a lot of anxiety because they're used to expectations and they're underperforming. And I feel like they want to force it to happen so bad, but it's really just not happening. And that's a lot of frustration to deal with. So they have a lot to clean up. The Bengals, you're also mentioning, backup quarterback, but they're still at 8-7. And as you can tell, within their last four games, they're 3-1. So they've been pretty good with Browning. And I feel like that gives a lot of reason for them to cover 6.5 points. I'm going to ride the Chiefs that we know at home. This is not Joe Burrow that we're talking about going into Kansas City. This is Jake Browning. There's a drop off there. And I'm going to ride the Chiefs this week. Not a whole rhyme to the reason other than I just have faith in that organization. And I have faith that they have full attention. They've been struggling. So this is the week that they should try to get this back on their push. Chiefs minus 6.5, under 44. This is going to be cold in Arrowhead, high of 34. And I'll take the Chiefs 24-17 in this matchup. But very interesting because if the Bengals win, like you're mentioning, both teams are 9-7. That's very interesting. Okay, especially in the landscape of the AFC because everyone's so even. LA Chargers are going to play the Denver Broncos this week. The Broncos lead this series 72-55 all time. This is an AFC West matchup that we have. Broncos still within playoff contention. Chargers officially eliminated. This game in Denver is going to be partly sunny with a high of 43. So no weather issues in Denver this week. Denver is a 3.5-point favorite at home. The over-under is 37. LJ, your guy Stidham that came over for the Raiders, he's now going to get the start for the Broncos. No more Russell Wilson cooking. He's in the fridge. Do you think Stidham comes out and takes care of business, or does Stick Trick Wick have some? Well, we saw something last week with them, so they can do something.
I do. This is gonna be my best bet of the week. Give me the Broncos to.
Wow.
I think they smash the Chargers. Maybe not smash, but I think that they cover. This is easily my best bet of the week. I don't think that the team liked Russell Wilson very much. So it's kind of this thing where, finally we get this monkey off our back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and we've seen Stidham when he comes in as a backup. We saw with the Raiders last year, I think he hung like 3 or 4 touchdowns on the Niners defense when they were, that kind of unstoppable force. So give me the Broncos here. I really like this. And I mean, this is a huge game for Sean Payton. They're at home. Um, Sean Payton benched, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the entire league. He's going to want to show, the world that he made the right choice. So give me the Broncos to beat the Chargers pretty easily here. I think this honestly, I may be hyping it up, but I think this is one of the better bets of the entire year. So give me the Broncos minus 3.5. As far as the total goes, give me give me the over. It's pretty low. I think that the Broncos score a little bit here because I do think that Stidham is a capable quarterback. So give me the Broncos to win 24-14 over that 38 point total.
I riddled exactly what you did last week. The only problem was they were playing the Patriots. So I'm like, can you guys talk me into putting the Broncos in the money line parlay this week? Because that's exactly what should happen. And I did slip the Broncos in the parlay last week, but they blew it against the Patriots. So I'm dealing with personal trauma here that I can't have the same confidence that you have that the Broncos are the lock of the week. I think I figured it out, though. The Broncos are playing the Charger, and they're not worthy of being an NFL team in your eyes. So this is an easy lock for the Broncos this week. I like your confidence. I don't have the confidence to put them in the parlay. I don't want to, foreshadow too much here, but that's just something that I feel dicey about, not being able to trust them. Stidham doesn't seem to be a bad quarterback. When he went in for you all last year against the Chiefs, he put up points there, and that was a good game that he played against the Chiefs. So he's shown to me that he can ball at the quarterback position. To comment a little bit about the Russ stuff that you were talking about, I just feel like Russ, he's a great player, he's a great athlete, but he's all about himself and maybe a little narcissistic. But if you listen to Marshawn Lynch talk about that Super Bowl team, or if you listen to Richard Sherman talk about that Super Bowl team, like no one really liked Russ in that huddle, and they didn't like Pete Carroll as well. And what you're mentioning recently is, offensive linemen are not going to help out Russ when he's getting hit. So he's a polarizing figure because he's such a good talent. But maybe he's not winning his locker room over, and that's part of the quarterback position. Chargers, they did what I thought they wouldn't do last week, and they kept it very close against the Bills. I feel like that was one of the shockers of the year, especially that the Chargers got blown out the week before by the Raiders. So I was still hoping to ride that wave that the Chargers suck. But for this matchup, I have to ride with the Broncos as well. I trusted them more than I trust Stick. And, I think that the Broncos have better elements. They are still within playoff contention. This game means more to them. And the Chargers are just trying to get through this season. I feel like that's where they're at right now. So Denver minus 3.5, over 37. Broncos to win 23-17. But I am pained as of last week to trust the Broncos in this week's parlay. All right, last game of the week here for week 17. We've gone over a full slate. There's no buys. Green Bay Packers are going to play the Minnesota Vikings. Normally, this has NFC North implications for a division winner, but not this season because the Detroit Lions are the top dog in that one. Packers lead this series 65-58 all time. This is dome weather, Sunday night football in Minnesota. Minnesota at home is a 1-point favorite. The over-under is 43.5. I believe Jalen Hall is getting the start for the Minnesota Vikings, so we're not going to see Nick Mullins. LJ, are you surprised that Vikings are only 1-point favorites here, or do you think the Packers should be? I feel like the Packers should be favored in this matchup. How do you see this one playing out in Minnesota?
I do. I like the Packers only because I'm not really sure why the Vikings are starting Jaren Hall. I mean, Nick Mullins, he looked pretty bad last week, but I feel like he's looked the best out of the 13 quarterbacks that they've had this season. But
They're probably trying to test some shit, no?
yeah, I mean, I guess so, but that's weird to do when you're right there in the playoff mix and the wild card mix, which the Vikings are. But
Yeah,
I'm gonna take the
7 and 8.
Packers here. Yeah, I'm gonna take the Packers here. I don't know. This one's a tough game. I think these teams are pretty even. But give me the Packers here in a kind of surprise win. But what I really do like in this game, a little spoiler, foreshadow, I really like the over in this game. It's a little bit low.
You had the over last week for Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean they're kind of they're one of those teams that are just over teams. Their defense is really bad and they can make the other quarterback look really good. So give me Green Bay to cover. I think that they win. Give me the over 100% and give me Green Bay to win 27-24. I think we get a little Sunday night shootout.
All right, I agree completely across the board with you. I feel like I like Jordan Love more than I like Jaren Hall. So I feel like that's a nod that you can give to Green Bay. Green Bay coming off of a win last week, 33-30. They slipped. I was expecting Green Bay to beat teams like the Bucks, and I feel like they had another loss that they shouldn't have had. Oh, against the Giants. I picked the Packers to beat the Giants for sure on that Monday night game. But I view Packers higher than I view the Vikings. I feel like the Vikings they're playing quarterback carousel here. And I agree, Nick Mullins looked competitive against the Lions last week, so I would give him the dice shot again. But I feel like the Packers are a team that actually could go into the playoffs, and I don't see the Vikings going to the playoffs this year. So give me the Packers to win this one 26-20. We both agree on the over, but I've got about 46 points. So, and how I feel about over-unders in the foreshadowing for what's coming next. So that's the only thing that would take me off of that checkerboard. But I agree. I think in a dome environment with both of these teams, not great defenses, I could see the over playing as well. So we're on the same page for a Sunday night this week. All right, last up, we have the parlay of the week. We went over each game of the week 17 slate, but it's now time to take everything that we talked about and really put it in to context here, because we're trying to get a win, and wins are tough to come by now. I feel like every week, we're getting some upset or just something that's happening that's shooting the parlay, but not this week. This is week 17. We're coming. We're going to get this one, and we're going to get week 18, and we're going to get first round of the playoffs. That's what's just going to happen. LJ, how is your week 17 parlay looking based on everything we talked about?
Yeah, I love my parlay this week. Feeling pretty good. I got a 5-leg, a mixed bag of a whole bunch of different things. So give me the New Orleans Saints to start off plus 2.5. I think that they, win outright. Not going to take the money line just in case it is a lower scoring game. But give me the Saints plus 2.5. Like I said earlier, give me Denver minus 3.5. One of the best bets of the year. Hopefully it doesn't blow up in my face, but give me Denver. Give me the Miami and Baltimore under 47 points. Two really good defenses. Think this is more of a defensive matchup, kind of like what we saw with Miami and Dallas last week. Give me the Rams money line. Got to throw a money line in there because, I'm on the show with you, Gray.
Oh, yeah.
And then give me the Green Bay, Minnesota over 43.5, 43 points. I think it's a shootout. So just to summarize, Saints plus 2.5, Broncos minus 3.5, Miami, Baltimore under 47 points, Los Angeles Rams money line versus the Giants, and Green Bay, Minnesota over the 43.5.
This is a classic LJ parlay here. You got 2 over-unders, 2 spreads, and now we're even playing safer now, getting the Rams with the money line. Don't want to risk them winning by a field goal against the Giants. Rams money line this week. I like it. I would say the only thing that concerns me is the Saints. I'm surprised that you're coming out this week and you're on the Saints because you've been on the Bucks recently. And I've actually been getting burned against the Bucks recently, so I'm about ready to jump on that wagon. So I'll have a close eye on that matchup in Tampa Bay this week, which is looking like good weather. So 5-leg parlay for LJ this week. He's got the Pentagon. We got to come up with a better nickname for the 5 legs, but that's what he's rocking this week. All right, for me this week, let's start off from the top. All right, I couldn't get enough value to be excited out of doing 6 money lines, so I'm gonna play a couple spreads here, but these are alternate lines. Don't fall for what the sports apps are giving you, like minus 13 and all that. Buy your spreads down and do safe plays, but also plays that give you a little more value in a 6-leg parlay. Okay, So let's start off here. We're going to take those Buffalo Bills. I had them at 12.5 points last week. Take them at 2.5 points this week. Next up, we're going to go to the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to buy that down to 5.5 points. It currently sits at 12 points, or even 13.5 points recently against the Commanders. Also, next, let's take those Jacksonville Jaguars by 2.5 points against the Panthers. Let's take the Rams. And you know what? I'm going to get a little cocky, but we're going to play it where it lies this week. 5.5 points. I think that's one of my best plays for the week. Leave it where it stands. The Eagles, they're 12-point favorites against the Cardinals, but we just know where they're sitting right now. So let's take the Eagles at 2.5 points this week to at least win by 3 points. And then lastly, this is the one I'm most worried about this week, but I'm going to play it. I'm going to play Patrick Mahomes, and I'm going to take the Chiefs money line against the Bengals. To summer up there, to summarize all that up, what I just said, I'm going to riddle it from the top. Bills -2.5, 49ers -5.5, Rams -5.5, Eagles -2.5, Jaguars -2.5, and then Chiefs money line. That's a 6-leg parlay, 5 spreads on alternate lines, and then 1 money line to cap that off for this week. All right, last up, we got Survivor. LJ, you got to save me because I'm dead with the Colts last week, and you're flying with the Seahawks. Who's your Week 17 Survivor?
Ooh, give me, let's see, someone who we haven't used here. Oh, give me Denver.
Easy.
Yeah. Give me Denver all day. Like I said, one of the better bets of the day or of the year, in my opinion. So give me the Denver Broncos. You need some steel underpants for this one. It's risky, could blow up in your face, could blow up in my face, but give me the Broncos to win. I think that they win pretty easily.
That's the AFC West pulse that you have. You know, you follow this division closely. You know that the Chargers are frauds, and the Broncos got way more going for them coming down the stretch here. So Broncos -3.5 is obvious for this week. So it should be obvious for the Survivor. And I like that one too, because I feel like that's a team that we haven't picked up to this point. Give me the Los Angeles Rams this week. I don't think I've picked them recently. I know we all died in our Survivor leagues, but I died with the Cowboys earlier this season, so I wish I could still be in those. But give me the Los Angeles Rams this week. I've seen them take care of the Giants in the past. I think that they can take care of them again. Good coaching, good offense, and good defense. Los Angeles Rams this week. All right, thanks so much for joining in to this Week 17 edition of Parlay with the G's podcast. LJ Basong, Raider Nation faithful. I'll be keeping an eye out for that matchup this week against the Colts. And we got playoffs coming up here. So this is do or die crunch time in the NFL.
Let's get it. Go Raiders.
All right, see ya.
All right, later.